We're back in the Carenado Piper PA-44 Seminole, and we are at Innsbruck, otherwise known as Lima Oscar Whiskey India. We're not dealing with real-time weather today, we're actually dealing with a preset which is scattered, because I want to do this during the day in real time. It's going to put us in real time. So let's start over there. So yeah, we are going to be taking a flight today to Zurich, which is about 114 miles, I think it is, and we're going to be going through the my checklist. So let's get this thing started up. Let's get rid of the yoke. First thing, parking brake is set, gear selector is down. Let's get the prop in the full forward position. A little bit of a jitter there from the controls, and the fact I am back using my throttle quadrant, so hopefully that's not going to be too bad. But that's the issue you have with potentiometers. Okay, carburetor heat is off, and let's get the cowl flaps open. The placarding on this is a little bit, if I can get down there to do it, if you see it says pull to close, push to open, ignore the close and open. All the way back, as it were, is open, all the way forward is closed. Rudder and stabilizer trim and neutral. Just, it's hard to know what position to put rudder in. I'll leave it about there. There's not really clear marker. For takeoff position, fuel selectors to on. Bit awkward take with track IR, but never mind. So basics are done. Radio mast there. You can get it to go cold and dark through the, I can demonstrate. Let's watch those switches. Let me just disable track error for a second. There you go. That gets rid of that. Oh, can then get rid of that. So it's kind of useful. Just double check. Switches are off, and we turn the switches off because we want to prevent an electrical surge or a potential electrical surge when we turn on the battery, which we will do now. Battery and alternators on. Annunciators, as you can see, all working correctly. Fuel quantity will be fine to get us to Zurich. Okay, now we've done the before engine start. I think it's before engine start, isn't it? Yeah, well, before starting engine to be exact. So we'll get on to we will get on to normal start. So mixture levers to full rich. Open throttle's a 1/4 inch. You can actually get away with just leaving them. It's down on the 5% or 3%. Can I nudge it forward to 4 or 5? Well, I did for a second. Yeah, 5% will do. Landing gear lights, we've got 3 green. Set the fuel pumps on. You can do this individually. We'll be starting the right engine first, so you could set all the switches and the mixture levers for the right engine, start that, and then start the left. It's up to you. If you want to be totally realistic, you do it that way, I suppose, but just saving ourselves a little bit of time. No need a primed engine. Set magnetos on, just for the right engine. At this point, lights as desired. So we'll set the fin strobe on, and we'll start the right engine. And we'll see That's not started. Why is it not started? Okay. Okay, does it actually need to be? I'm sure I've made a simple mistake. No, that's not. That is not going to start. Okay. You know, oh, I know why. It's obviously completely forgot. Demonstrated. There's the first deliberate mistake. I demonstrated that and forgot completely that it would restart, or it would reset the positions of the fuel tank selector. So there you go. Always do the cold and dark start first. So yeah, we've got oil pressure in the green. It's interesting that amperes on the left as well as the right. Anyway, odd. So let's go ahead and start the left. I need to add another dead zone, or increase the dead zone on track IR. It keeps catching me out. So we've got both engines started. One of these days I'm going to investigate the amperes so I know exactly what that's telling me, because that's a bit odd to me. Okay, now we move on to before taxiing. Annunciator lights are fine. Let's get the radio master on. Set lights as desired. Let's get the nav lights on. Okay, we've got
scattered 4,500 feet scattered. Temperature 11. Dew point 13.
okay, what we
Altimeter 29.9.
okay.
Innsbruck Airport information. Flight 1000 Zulu. Wind 268 at 8. Visibility.
Okay, expected.
Sky condition 600 feet.
Could be going up to 12,000 feet.
500 feet scattered.
Temperature 11.
11. Dew point 13. Altimeter 29.9.
Yeah, what we set.
Visual runway 26 in use.
So we're taking off in 26.
Runway 26. DSR aircraft. Say
See,
direction of flight.
track I just will not
All
sit still
aircraft
for me.
read back offshore instructions. Advise controller on initial contact. You have mic. Innsbruck Airport information. Flight 1000 Zulu. Wind 268.
Innsbruck Tower Golf, November Oscar Victor Alpha IFR to Zurich, ready to copy.
Golf, November Oscar Victor Alpha is cleared to Zurich Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 26 climb and maintain 8,000 feet. Departure frequency is 124.4
Okay, 1,000.
Golf, November Oscar Victor Alpha cleared to Zurich Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 26 climb and maintain 8,000 feet. Departure on 124.4 squawk 1177.
Oscar Victor Alpha readback is correct. Contact ground on 120.1 when ready to taxi.
Zooming in. The perennial bugbear of any flight simulator or simulator user. Take a look here. I think we're going to need a pushback right up against it. Let's just see how this is going to work. Well, that's not going to work. We're not going to get any sort of pushback. Oh well. So heater and defroster is required. Let's get our cabin heat on. Sign up. Heater heat off.
Cessna November Yankee Uniform
I'll leave it at that.
Innsbruck
Request
ground
taxi
Golf, November
IFR.
Oscar Victor Alpha with Mike ready to taxi IFR.
124 decimal, form for Cessna, November Yankee uniform.
Set nav to GPS.
Golf, November Oscar Victor Alpha taxi to and hold short of runway 26 using taxiway. Contact tower on 120.
That's a good idea. Use the taxiway.
Innsbruck Tower Airbus Oscar Echo, Juliet Hotel.
So 26
Clearance to Rhoda.
Airbus Oscar Echo, Juliet
is
Hotel Zulu is cleared to Rhoda Airport.
over that way.
Takeoff runway 26 climb and maintain 14,000 feet. Departure frequency is 119.275 squawk 3715.
Taxi to and hold short runway 26 via taxiway Oscar Victor Alpha.
Airbus Oscar Echo, Juliet Hotel. Zulu cleared.
Okay, let's get the taxiing.
Takeoff runway 26
Should be able to release the
climb,
parking brake
14,000
with the
feet.
toe brakes, of course, but
Departure on 124 decimal 4 squawk 3715.
Airbus
Yeah,
Juliet
you
Hotel
left
Zulu
with it.
read back correct. Contact ground on 120.1.
can avoid hitting these doors. Really
Innsbruck ground nearby.
desperate to
Oscar
avoid
Echo, Juliet Hotel. Zulu requesting pushback.
smashing into the building.
Airbus Oscar Echo, Juliet Hotel Zulu pushback request accepted.
Keep trying to use the toe brake to just swing it around a bit. It was a bit untidy, but that's what you get for choosing a small parking spot. Okay, we're going that way. Let's get ourselves organised. This is Orbex Innsbruck. Of course, the Silbo have their own version, but as I understand it, the Silbo version is 26 meg. That was at least the amount that I deleted when I installed. Oh crikey, this one's also going to push back. Hopefully we're both going in the right direction. So yeah, the Silbo version 26 meg, at least that's what I deleted.
Juliet Hotel. Zulu requesting the end of pushback.
Whereas the Orbex version is 3.08 gigs.
Juliet Hotel Zulu request to end pushback received.
So clearly there's a significant difference there. We're going to get stuck behind this A320.
Innsbruck ground Airbus Oscar Echo, Juliet Hotel. Zulu with Mike ready to taxi IFR.
I wish the guy would hurry up.
Oscar Echo, Juliet Hotel
It's nice to see liveries
short of runway 26 via taxiway.
starting to appear on the jets. Obviously this is a Tui, what is it, A320? So starting to see liveries from airliners appearing in the sim,
Juliet Hotel Zulu.
which is really good to see. We've got AI air traffic, so just recenter track out a little bit off. Let's pick up speed a little bit. Now this A320 started moving. Nice to see animated windsocks. It's a small detail, but it's so nice to see that. You know, one of the bugbears really with world traffic was you'd be taxiing to take off, and yeah, you'd have passenger jets taxiing, but they'd go to the completely opposite end of the runway to take off, which was a bit frustrating.
Innsbruck Tower Airbus Oscar Echo, Juliet Hotel. Zulu at runway 26 ready for takeoff IFR to Rhoda.
Airbus Oscar Echo,
A little bit of work to do around the air, just getting frequencies. We're going to be landing I'm at least expecting to land ILS 28 at Zurich.
Cleared for takeoff runway 26 Airbus Oscar Echo, Juliet Hotel Zulu.
Let's just get lined up here and hold short. It is nice to be able to take off behind something. Just wish we had a little bit more traffic. I think I set AI traffic to 100%, I'm not sure. Let's just stop it there. Set a parking brake. Well, taxiing, we've done taxiing before takeoff. Check flight controls. Just flip this back on. Pedals are working fine. Pitot heat as required. I'm just going to stick the pitot on. Autopilot flight director. Put in fact, let's get the strobes on. Flight director on. Rudder and stabilizer trim set. Transponder is required. Altitude. Flight level 000 apparently. Annunciators look fine. And
Innsbruck Tower Golf, November Oscar Victor Alpha at runway 26 ready for takeoff IFR to Zurich.
Golf, November Oscar Victor Alpha taxi into position and hold.
Position and hold Oscar Victor Alpha.
what is it in
Airbus
time?
Juliet Hotel Zulu, contact Vienna, center on 124.4.
Just going to assume means get onto the runway. Let's boom.
124.4 Airbus, Juliet Hotel Zulu.
Taxi onto the runway. Takes a bit of power to get it moving. Seems to take a lot of power to get moving, but once it's moving, it just develops this kind of unstoppable momentum, where friction just doesn't seem to slow it down. You expect as it's moving over the ground just to slow it down a little bit, but it doesn't seem to affect him. If anything, it actually picks up speed. I'm tempted to think that's just down to being on a slope or something, but it doesn't seem to matter whether it's on a slope or not.
Golf, November Oscar Victor Alpha cleared for takeoff runway 26.
Cleared for takeoff runway 26 Golf, November Oscar
I think
Victor
I've got
Alpha.
everything covered on that. Normal takeoff, no flaps for this takeoff. Flaps are retracted. Accelerate 75 knots, rotate, accelerate 88 knots, and then retract the gear and flaps, and then we'll be looking at 105 to get up to 8,000 feet. Keep ATC. I want to keep ATC there because it's my voice attack, which I used to use to call up ATC. For some reason, is behaving very strangely. It's just straightened out. So everything is as it should be. Let's get going. Be interesting to see how we have to handle this actual takeoff, because we're heading straight into a mountain. Nice and docile. Zoom out a little bit. Airspeed is alive. Looking at 75 knots, drifting right a little bit. Zips up quite a bit there. Gear is in transit. Going up a huge rate.
Contact Vienna, center
This is the problem with having to do it with your hands. I'm going to let go of the stick.
Vienna Center Golf, November Oscar Victor Alpha is at 3,000
Okay, now looking at
climbing
105.
8,000 feet.
Golf, November Oscar Victor Alpha Vienna Center continues at WI 505 as planned. Altimeter 29.902. Oscar Victor Alpha keeps speed below 210 knots.
That is the plan.
Keep speed below 210 knots, Oscar Victor Alpha.
Oscar
went pretty
Victor
well.
Alpha climb and maintain 8,500 feet.
Was that us?
Climb and maintain 8,500 feet, Oscar Victor Alpha.
So yeah, pretty much gone to plan. Now let's see if we can stick the autopilot on. Hopefully it's not going to fly into a mountain. We zoom in a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. That's not going to give us 105, but crikey, it's going up like an absolute rocket ship. Look at that. So it's looking
Vienna Center, Beechcraft, India. Mike Charlie Sierra
it's not going to go above
15,000 feet.
2000.
Beechcraft, India.
So the whole 105 in the climb,
Continue as planned. Altimeter 29.902.
you're going to have to manually fly up there. Said before, I'm a little bit suspicious about the speeds, but so what's this airspeed right now? About 110.
Tango X-ray Hotel contact Munich Center on 120.65.
It's not a million miles away from where I'd like to be. We should be at 105. Okay, let's skip back to the
120.65
coming up to
Airbus Tango
our
X-ray Hotel.
altitude, so I'm going to have to
Oscar Victor Alpha climb and maintain 12,000 feet.
is that us?
Airbus Juliet Hotel Zulu climb and maintain flight level 260.
Here it's to 12,000.
Climb and maintain 12,000 feet, Oscar Victor Alpha.
Climb and maintain flight level 260
Let's
Airbus
go-
Juliet
just
Hotel
change that.
Zulu.
Just as I'm changing that, we go through it. So cruise climb. Let's get down to as power is actually lower than where I'd like it to be, but let's get the props down to 24. Okay, now that's dropping off a little bit. Airspeed's dropping off, so let's go down to 1500. I'm just figuring out what we need to do to get the airspeeds I'm looking for. Let's try leaning the engine. We should have been doing that already, but it's not easy leaning on this aircraft because EGT is just right down at the bottom of the scale.
Center Airbus Delta Alpha Romeo Lima Kilo flight level 260. Airbus Delta
I'm leaning on
Lima
airspeed.
Kilo Vienna Center continue as planned.
I might have seen a slight increase in airspeed, but I might be fooling myself. Just going to leave it where it is. Right, look how far back that is.
Vienna Center, Cessna Golf. Hotel, X-ray Tango
I'm
Hotel,
making good,
15,500 feet.
We can actually get a look around a little bit, which is a good thing.
Hotel X-ray Tango Hotel Vienna Center continue as planned. Altimeter 29.902.
So let's pop this out and see what we've got.
Delta Victor Bravo Yankee contact Milan Center on 124 decimal
We've got some distance to go. Oh, we're coming to 2,000.
Contact Milan Center on 124 decimal 925. 124 decimal 925 Dare Victor Bravo Yankee. Vienna Center Dare Fox.
Slow it down.
Uniform Romeo Echo flight level 320. Dollar Foxtrot, Mike Uniform Romeo Echo Vienna Center continuous plan.
Just must have missed that button. Right, so we're at 12,000.
124 decimal 925 Dollar Sierra Mike Mike.
Airspeed is looking good. Just want to do something here. I'm going to, first of all, if we do anything, I'm going to turn cockpit on.
26 decimal 225.
So I don't want to get caught out. Let's get the landing light off. Recog lights. Might as well put that on.
126.225 for Airbus, Juliet Hotel Zulu.
Vienna Center Airbus Oscar Echo. Mike Bravo Foxtrot is out of
So,
flight level
let's check
185
something out
for
here.
11,000 feet. Airbus Oscar Echo. Mike Bravo Foxtrot Vienna Center continue to Romeo Tango
I always
Tango.
forget how this works. Yeah, that's how it works. There you have it. Where is the
Whiskey
Atis?
Papa Juliet contact Munich Center on 120 decimal 65.
See, we don't have
120
a list
decimal
specifically, which is a
65
shame.
Whiskey Papa Juliet.
18. Okay, I'm gonna just to keep this simple.
Vienna Center Beechcraft India. Whiskey
We
Sierra
should
November
just
Golf
indicate which one's the
18,000
Atis.
feet. Beechcraft India. Whiskey Sierra November Golf Vienna Center
We'll
continuous
get that
plan.
option
Altimeter
later on.
29.902.
So that's not a complete disaster.
Vienna Center, Cessna, India. Papa Juliet, Kilo Foxtrot, 14,000 feet. Cessna, India. Papa Juliet, Kilo Foxtrot, Vienna Center, continuous plan.
109.75. So that's how you get your ILS.
Cessna, Juliet, Kilo Foxtrot, traffic alert. 11 o'clock, less than 1 mile, 14,000
So now we have
feet, Cessna
ILS set
Carenado.
up.
Report them in sight.
So now we have ILS set up. Look at that, isn't that awesome? Finally we can
Echo,
have
Echo,
a proper look around at this mountain scenery. Mountains are a little bit hit and miss for me.
Cessna, India. Echo, X-ray, Mike,
Look a little bit
Vienna
low
Center,
resolution.
continuous
I
plan.
keep hearing about
Altimeter
I keep hearing
29.902.
criticism of the clouds and how they're pixelated, and I can't see that at all.
Cessna X-ray Mike Golf traffic
They
alert.
look perfectly fine for me.
6 o'clock less than 1 mile, 14,000 feet.
In fact, more than
Cessna
perfectly
Carenado.
fine.
Report them in sight.
Just check in here, make sure no one's asking us. Any questions?
Cessna X-ray Mike Golf have the Cessna Caravan in sight.
Okay, so we're set up for runway 28. Anything goes wrong, then we'll discover when we get to Atis. Have a look at this. A big right turn. And a great view of the mountains. So I remember flying over here in X-Plane 11 and that looked you know, it looked really nice. So, you know, I mean, obviously you have to do a little bit more work.
Bravo, Foxtrot, contact Innsbruck, approach on 119.275.
Just get that down there. Keep missing the call sign.
Oscar Victor Alpha, traffic is 2 o'clock, 4 miles and 15,500 feet, Cessna Caravan. Report them in sight.
Can't see
Cessna X-ray
anything.
Tango Hotel, traffic is 2 o'clock, 4 miles and 12,000 feet. Report them in sight. Going to 119.275 Airbus Mike
Oh,
Bravo,
that's confusing.
Foxtrot.
Some great clouds. Yeah, once we get to Zurich, then we'll tune into ATIS and see what the situation is, but I would hope we're going to get cleared into runway
Vienna
28.
Center Beach craft Oscar Echo. Uniform Quebec Echo is climbing through 2,600 feet for 7,000 feet.
I have not yet used ILS on this aircraft, so
Uniform Quebec Echo.
anything is
Vienna Center
possible.
continue as planned. Altimeter 29.9 Cessna X-ray Tango Hotel, contact
I just love the layers of clouds
275.
and the shadows that they cast. It's just really amazing. I just wish I could use live weather and change the time. I don't think they can do, which is a shame because I don't.
X-ray Tango Hotel.
For the times that I can do this, it's usually in the evening European time, so it's easier for me to do North America.
Vienna Center Cessna Golf. Hotel. X-ray Tango Hotel.
Would be nice if ATC had regional voices, but never mind.
Cessna Golf. Hotel X-ray Tango Hotel, Vienna Center, continuous plan. Altimeter
But a Silver strike me as a company that would do that if it were practical. If enough people want it, if enough people campaign for it, I think they'd do it. But and that's, you know, that's if you compare FSX to MSFS, where we had, was it FSX? I think we had, that's my phone just randomly beeping. With FSX, I think we have 3 service pack updates, and that was it. That's all you got. So as imperfect as this is, if you compare it to the experience with FSX, it's totally different. It's completely different. You have to be grateful for what you've got, because we do have a developer that's actually willing to put the extra effort in. Not seeing any aircraft at the moment, which is a shame. But then in daylight it's harder to pick them out anyway. Let's take a look at instruments and make sure that we're actually doing things right. Take off this carb heat actually.
Cessna X-ray Tango Hotel, contact Innsbruck, approach on 119.275.
I just didn't want to be adjusting anything on the 530 and then look up and find that we're at stall speed.
119.275 Cessna. X-ray Tango Hotel.
Beechcraft Uniform Quebec Echo, contact Munich Center on 120.65.
Okay, so we are just kind of chugging along. As you can see on the transponder, we're still flight level 0 apparently.
120.65 Beechcraft Uniform Quebec Echo.
Oh, actually,
Dollar Uniform
let's just return to the
124.9 or 25.
electric fuel pumps off. A bit late on this, but that's what happens when you try talking and flying at the same time. It just doesn't like turn it off for some reason.
124.9 or 25 there.
Is this mixture? Car flaps closed as required. Let's get those car flaps closed. Should have been. Yeah, car flaps are closed. Carpet is closed. And we're ready for descent whenever that happens. It's a lot harder to do this and talk at the same time, I tell you. Let's take a look at manifold pressure. How's that?
Oscar Victor Alpha, contact Munich Center on 120.65. Airbus 571, contact Munich Center on 120.65.
I was about to acknowledge that.
Going to 120.65 Oscar Victor Alpha.
Yeah, leaning. I don't know.
Munich Center Golf. November Oscar Victor Alpha 12,000.
I've leaned before and got at least some leaning on airspeed, but
Whiskey, you are 41 miles east. Descend and maintain 5,000 feet. Expect ILS
I don't know.
runway 24 approach.
Since then, maybe it's just beginner's luck. I don't know.
Clear to Kilo, Papa Tango.
Come on, give me some instructions.
Oscar Victor Alpha Munich Center. Continue as
Continuous
planned.
plan. That'll do me.
Altimeter 29.902.
Leaning just is having no effect.
X-ray, please expedite your descent to 3,800 feet.
EGT. I've seen EGT work before. I've leaned on EGT, but for some reason, maybe it's an update. I don't know, but it just stopped leaning.
Beechcraft uniform Quebec Echo climb and maintain
It's also
flight
better
level
at holding altitude before. Previously, I've done this and it just lost altitude. You get to the altitude that you wanted, and then you looked away for a little while, and you came back and you were like 500 feet short of it. It would just lose altitude. It wouldn't make a real effort to get back to it. So I don't know. It's like we've lost that odd behaviour, which is great, but we've also lost the leaning.
Whiskey Munich Center. Continue as planned.
So it's kind of lost a gain and a loss
Victor uniform Whiskey descend and maintain
right there.
15,000 feet. Descend and maintain 15,000 feet. Airbus Victor uniform
I don't know if it's just me, but the engines in a twin, they just look so much bigger and more powerful in MSFS to me than in X-Plane 11. That may just be I may be misremembering it, but they really look impressive. Maybe it's the graphical detail, I don't know.
Yankee Quebec Munich Center. Continue as planned.
But they just look more impressive to me. Certainly, maybe it's just that added realism that they do look. I mean, if you look at them in the rain when you're taxiing, they just look like they just look real. I mean, this is 1440, never mind 4K. But in the rain taxiing, they absolutely look stunning. It just looks like the real world scene. But I don't think you can fault the representation. And so we've just done a really good job with stuff like that. You're sitting on the the taxiway at night or parking or whatever, and it's dark and you've got the reflection of the instruments and the 530 on the glass. It's just really impressive.
Uniform Whiskey, you are 79 miles southwest. Maintain present heading and altitude.
Again, it has its issues, but
Left approach via Bedos transition. Clear to Bedos.
just wanna,
Cessna Zulu X-ray. X-ray, please expedite your descent to 3,800 feet.
can I get a nearest airport
X-ray
list?
Yankee climb and maintain flight level 270. Maintain
No.
present heading and altitude. Expect ILS
Well, that's a shame.
26 left approach via Bedos transition. Clear to Bedos. Airbus Victor uniform
This
Whiskey.
is a bit of an experiment for me. I want
Delta Mike Foxtrot, Sierra
to
descend
figure
and
certain
maintain
things out,
10,000 feet.
including the aircraft. Nearest airport, which is a shame.
Airbus November X-ray Yankee.
Descend and maintain 10,000 feet. Got Mike Foxtrot Sierra.
Those are pretty ominous clouds. You know, I know a lot of people have very valid criticisms of MSFS, but I think a lot of it is unfair. A lot of people will point to the aircraft and say, oh, they don't do this, there's so many in-op switches. Yeah, but these are stock aircraft, apart from this obviously. That's just how it is. Stock aircraft are never going to be study level. To criticise MSFS on that is just nuts. What it does though, it does so much in one package, and that's what we always need to remember. Yes, there are frustrations, yes, there are things that drive you nuts at times with it. Look at that reflection there. Like, I know X-Plane 11 also does that. But MSFS does so much in one package. You could say it's expensive. I bought the premium edition. It was £120, which is what, $140, something like that. Let's put it back a little bit more. Yeah. Props. It's going down to 24. That's about it. I mean, look at the 3D volumetric clouds for one thing. And to do that, still maintaining good frame rates. I don't know what my frame rates are anymore because I don't worry about that. I just forget it. I was getting 36, which is perfectly acceptable from my setup. I don't even bother looking at it anymore because I don't notice anything. I'm never looking at it thinking, oh, it's a little bit jittery, it's a little bit slow, it's a little bit jerky. Apart from when you spawn in initially, when it is a little bit jerky, but you know, it's just loading data. Making a left turn here. Let's make sure no one's talking to us now. Usually they're shouting at me. So to have that 3D volumetric clouds, to have traffic, to start seeing liveries, to get snow. I mean, the other night I was sitting at Kelowna and it was dark and it was snowing, and it's just awesome to see aircraft lights. To, you know, it's look at that scene. To see rainbows, for heaven's sakes, and have that all in one package, and to be able to select SIDS and stars direct from the sim and have it fill, to have it populate the G530 or whatever. It's trying to do a huge amount of things. Yes, there are things it's missing. I'd like to see shipping, I'd like to see trains. I don't think there are trains in it yet. I'd like to see more improvements generally. There are issues that need fixing. Oh, what is it? What is that doing? I think I just nudged the stick and it just flipped into a barrel roll. What is it doing? Come on, let's straighten out there. That was weird. Yeah, I think I just nudged the stick and it decided to go into a roll. Completely my fault. Let's get back up to where we should be. So we need to be careful. Suddenly everything can go wrong. Those are just awesome clouds. Oh, it's beautiful, absolutely amazing. Coming up to 12,000. Ah, let's just be a little bit more careful.
Munich Center.
I can
Continue as
hit
planned.
the...
Altimeter 29.902.
Finally, hit the altitude button.
Cessna Juliet Kilo Foxtrot.
So where were we?
11 o'clock, less than 1 mile, 14,000 feet, Cessna Caravan. Report them in sight.
Munich Center, Cessna India.
Should
Echo
be.
X-ray Mike Golf 14,000 feet.
Cessna India. Echo X-ray. Mike Golf
Let
Munich
me just,
Center. Continue
again,
as
just
planned. Altimeter
disable track out.
29.902.
Cessna Juliet Kilo Foxtrot traffic in sight.
Cessna X-ray. Mike Golf. Traffic alert. 6 o'clock, less than 1 mile, 14,000 feet,
No,
Cessna
we get to
Caravan.
Negra.
Report them in sight.
It's a little... MSFS has that odd bug which is still there. Yeah, jittery now actually. Where if you activate the approach at the wrong moment, it will have you going in circles. So I'm going to
Tango Sierra. Hold the flight level 290.
try activating the approach short of Negra.
Foxtrot. Tango Sierra. Hold the Munich Center. Continue as
That's the
planned.
arrival. I think it wants the approach activated at Negra. I think Negra is, if I remember correctly, Negra is the initial approach fix. It's just a little bit temperamental. I'm surprised they haven't fixed it yet. I mean, I've just been praising Asobo for what they've done, but that's one thing that they haven't fixed. It's just, it shouldn't be going back on itself. It shouldn't be flying in circles. Again, never flown an approach on this, so we'll see how that works out.
Descend and maintain flight level 200 Kilo Echo Mike.
Everything's in the green. So at 25 miles to Negra. Negra 1 Zulu is the approach, or the arrival, preceding the approach. That's pretty awesome.
126.225 Dahmer Mike.
Just a great spot where we're just between the clouds rather than flying through them, so we've got a decent view. That is a lot of clouds to be drawing. So yeah, if I had to give a review of MSFS at this moment in time, I'd say, yeah, it's awesome. I haven't touched Expo 11 since this released, since August. No intentions of going back to it. If I were flying heavy metal, if I were flying the Zibo 737, yeah, I'd probably still be with it, but that's not where my interest is right now. Maybe in the future, but I'm enjoying... To be honest, my favourite aircraft, I must have said this before, are the twin pistons. Steam gauge twin pistons, that's where my interest lies. Rather than heavy metal. Because there's so much to learn. I mean, to jump straight, I know I've said this before in previous videos, but if you're jumping straight to heavy metal and you're missing out on aircraft like this, then you're missing out on a really important step in learning about aviation. I mean, if that's what you want to do, fine, but there's so much good stuff to learn here. Hopefully ATC's not going to let us down. We've taken a route that's actually kind of north of the mountains, so we should be fine for getting flown into anything. And as a general comment, this is quite a long, well, will it be a long video? It'll be about an hour and a half, I think.
Light contact Zurich Center on 126.225.
It's the kind of video that I like to do, but my experience of views on a video like this have been pretty bad. I just don't think there is, and it kind of saddens me, I don't think there's a huge audience for piston engine aircraft in videos like this. I just think, you know, if you're flying a A320 or a 737 or whatever, then you're much more likely to get better views. But again, I just think that's a real shame, because I think these aircraft are just so much fun, and you get to learn a lot at a kind of a slow speed. What is it on that for? Always makes me suspicious. I've had IFR flight plans cancelled previously by the AI, even though it's not turned on. So I'm a bit suspicious about that. But yeah, ideally I'd like to get better views on these long form videos, but I think I'll have to wait until I get into something like the A320, which will probably happen at some point, but for now I think I've got a lot more to get out of this. Under 14 miles to Negra. I don't think that's Zurich, I don't know which one it is.
Munich Center, Vector Sierra Echo, Delta Quebec, Charlie flight level 410.
Echo Delta Yankee Whiskey, I suppose. Could it be? No, it's off to the front.
Delta Quebec, Charlie Munich Center, continue as planned. Munich Center, Donner Hotel, Bravo, Zulu Kilo Echo flight
Okay,
level
that's got me confused a little bit.
Donner Hotel, Bravo, Zulu Kilo Echo Munich
Oh, there it
Center,
is.
continue as planned.
That's what I'm looking for. Echo Delta November Yankee. That's what I'm looking for. We're going that way instead. Anyway, that done. I'm going to activate the approach at Negra. So I think that's the... In fact, let me check something out. Suffix is Charlie Foxtrot 28.
Zulu Kilo Echo contact Zurich Center on 126.225.
Is that us? Nope.
Going to 126.225 Doctor, Zulu Kilo Echo.
Figure out what we're doing here. Okay, what transition is a Miki. Okay, so let's wait till we get to Amiki.
Munich Center Cessna Foxtrot. Quebec Juliet Papa Alpha flight level 290.
Cessna Foxtrot, Quebec, Juliet Papa Alpha.
Okay, that will be the plan then.
Continue as planned. Munich Center, Airbus.
Okay, so when we get to Amiki, that's when
Juliet flight level 280.
I'll activate the approach and hopefully
Airbus Papa Hotel, Victor Yankee, Juliet Munich Center, continue as planned.
that is going to work out as planned.
Munich Center Air Foxtrot. Echo Hotel Delta Charlie flight level
Let me
350.
just switch.
Donner Foxtrot, Echo Hotel Delta, Charlie Munich Center, continue as planned.
19.75 for the ILS.
Donner Mike Bravo uniform descent and maintain 14,000
That should give us information when we get close to it. So that's the plan. Let's see how this all works out. May end up just having a planet visual. As I said, I've not
Bravo uniform.
done an ILS on this. It's a while since I've done an ILS at all, actually, so bear that in mind.
Donner Mike Bravo
Just look at those
uniform
clouds.
contact Zurich Center on 126.225.
I'm talking and trying to monitor the radio at the same time, which is not as easy as it sounds.
Papa Alpha traffic is 3 o'clock 4 miles at flight level 280 Airbus A20N. Report them in sight.
Okay, so let's take a look at the descent. Adjust mixture during descent, set throttles and cow flaps as required. I don't expect to have to worry too much about that. So less than 20 miles from Amiki.
Cessna Juliet Papa Alpha have the traffic.
Oscar Victor Alpha descent and maintain 6,000 feet. Airbus Victor Yankee Juliet
6,000
traffic
feet.
in sight.
Descend and maintain 6,000 feet, Oscar Victor Alpha.
Let's back off on the power.
126.225 Donner Mike Bravo uniform.
Okay, we've just got to monitor that for Akimi. Must stay below 140 knots because that's the gear extension speed. Going down to 6,000.
Airbus Victor Yankee Juliet contact center on 127.6.
Let's just expedite that a little bit. Let's go down 1,000 feet per minute. Watch that airspeed.
127.6
Let's
Airbus
climb
Victor
up a little
Yankee
bit.
Juliet.
Drop it down to 14. So manifold pressure down to 14. Just watch that airspeed. When we're below 10,000, I'll put the landing light back on. And hopefully this is going to go smoothly. Approach and landing will set altimeter, which I think is still going to be the same, but can we get ATIS? No.
Oscar Victor Alpha contact Zurich Center on 126.225.
Going to 126.225 Oscar Victor Alpha.
I know it's a cheat when you're having it set in radio frequencies for you, but
Beechcraft Romeo
it really is convenient. It makes life so much easier, especially when you're dealing with tracker and you're trying to twiddle those knobs. Yeah, 29.92.
Altimeter 29.92. Donner
I suppose when we pick up Zurich radio we'll get ATIS down, but I'd like to get ATIS a little bit earlier than that. Every time I turn it off we get contacted. Didn't I turn landing lights off? Oh dear. That was probably me struggling to hit altitude.
125.33 Oscar Victor Alpha.
Bear in mind we're dropping out of 6,000, 140 knots. Can't we get ATIS?
Zurich approach Golf. November Oscar Victor Alpha is at 8,900 feet, descending 6,000 feet.
Golf, November Oscar Victor Alpha, Zurich approach.
Sounds like a plan. But yeah, I'd like to get ATIS. I'd like to get ATIS, but anyway. Got to look it up beforehand. If I had it, I would put it into Com 2 and just flip to that to get the ATIS. But I'm just going to have to trust that the wind hasn't changed direction, and we'll get runway 28. Coming down to 8,000 feet. No, I keep hearing this same line about the sim, that it's not a simulator, it's a scenery generator or whatever. I think that's getting really tired now, to be honest. I don't know how you could possibly say this isn't a simulator. I just don't get it. Maybe your pet feature isn't in or whatever. Maybe you've just had really bad luck with it. I don't know. But 7,000. Okay, I thought we were going to 6, but anyway.
Descend and maintain 7,000 feet Oscar Victor Alpha.
Come to make it 5. Got to bear that in mind. Should already be loaded. So dropping it to 7. And hold. Let's pull that up so you can see what we're doing. Might have the controls next to it actually, but never mind. Heck is this doing? Army key.
Oscar Victor Alpha, you are 23 miles east. Descend and maintain 3,700 feet. Expect vectors visual runway tree 2 approach.
You just
Descend and maintain 3,700 feet. Expect vectors visual runway tree to approach Oscar Victor Alpha.
I'm just going to go the ILS. So let me just have another look at that. Where are we going now? Let's hope that it's getting it right. No, it's not. See, this is the problem. this is the problem. We're going all the way around there again. Instead of going a Miki, that is annoying.
Oscar Victor Alpha, please expedite your descent to 3,700 feet.
Yeah, I'm messing about that. 3,700 feet. Just get rid of that. See, this is the problem. It does. This is the problem. It's taking me back instead of carrying on to a Miki and then continuing on. It just goes backwards. It goes back to where you've been and then comes back round. You know, it's a well documented issue. It is one of those frustrating things about it. I'm coming up to the transition for the approach, coming up to the initial approach fix, and it's like, no, we're going to go all the way back. We're going to double back on where we were, and then we're going to come around. It's just nuts. But let me try to figure this out. I wish we would have the controls on the right hand side so you didn't have to just jump back and forth with that. Where are we going here? Okay, this is a bit nuts. Let me try to figure out what the heck is going on here. See, it's gone all the way around here. So we've gone all the way up here and all the way down there, which is a bit nuts. Amika was the transition to the approach. So that hasn't worked out as planned. I'd have to examine that and try to figure out what on earth went wrong there. But that just happens a lot. Let me see. Little nav map is a pain because every time you move away from it, it just completely forgets what you're just looking at. Yeah, initial fix is Amiki. This is the approach to ILS 28. Okay, track to fix this song. Yeah, I mean it's flying that. I mean, yeah, you'd see it's flying that. I'm just not sure how that makes sense as an approach. Hold on a second. $3,700. Hopefully we're not going to fly into any mountains. I'm trying to make sense of it. I'm trying to figure out what I should have done here. Let's level out of that. That is actually flying that approach ILS. I'll make it a songy. That just looks, I mean, you can see it there. That makes no sense. Why would the transition, why would the transition be a Miki? The initial fix is a Miki, then we got a songy. I'm sure there's some logic in this approach, but I can't figure it out. Why would we go from a Miki to songy for ILS 28? I don't get that. Anyway, that's where we are. Don't get it. I don't understand how that works, but ours is not the reason why. So yeah, now we're down in the clouds a little bit here. Let's just push this. See, now we've got Sumi GT, but it's just going to max out mixture because I don't think it seems to make any difference.
Zurich approach Golf. November Oscar Victor Alpha would like to change destination to Zurich.
Golf, November
Hold on a second.
Alpha is cleared to Zurich Airport as filed.
What?
1177.
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. What on earth?
Golf, November Oscar Victor Alpha cleared to Zurich Airport as filed. Squawk
I never
117.
said to change the destination.
Feedback correct. Radar contact 3,700 feet. Altimeter 29.9 turn left heading 210 climb and maintain 8,700 feet.
Well, I don't know.
Turn
That's
left
just
heading
nuts.
210 climb and maintain
I mean,
8,700
you know,
feet.
I've set up for an ILS approach at runway 28,
Oscar Victor
and it's trying to set me.
miles northeast. Maintain present heading and altitude. Expect vectors visual runway 32 approach.
I don't know. It knew we were going to ILS 28, so then it's trying to set me up for vectors onto visual. Okay, the conditions, yeah, are visual. But I want to do an ILS approach. So I'm going to do an ILS approach, regardless. So yeah, what I should have probably done is just listen to ATC, just on the visual, and left it at that. But I don't want to do a visual approach, I want to do an ILS.
Oscar Victor Alpha, did you copy?
Yeah, and I'm completely and utterly ignoring you.
Maintain present heading and altitude. Expect vectors visual runway
But having
32
said that,
approach
its
Oscar
vectors
Victor
are
Alpha.
just messed up. I've been there before with vectors, and you're just constantly having to remind it, you know, give me vectors, give me vectors, give me vectors, because you're just miles away from where you need to be. Let's just keep this up on screen for the time being. So I'm a little bit confused at this point as to what we're doing. A big left turn coming up. A bit lower than I'd like to be, but it is what it is. So yeah, there are two issues there, I suppose. First of all, having the destination cancelled and then refiled as the same destination we're going to, that's a bit odd. I don't trust vectors to visual because I've had the experience before being sent all over the place.
Oscar Victor Alpha, please expedite your climb to 8,700 feet.
I'm not going to, sorry. So we can silence that. I kind of, you know, I don't know if I want to complain about it changing what I'd filed to visual. Yeah, it's visual. The conditions are visual, so why not? Let's make a left turn. Let's make a left turn here, please. Oh, we're going to make this left turn. Are we going to make this left turn? Yeah, thank heavens for that. So I'm okay with that. It's just, and yeah, the approach does lead you around the houses. I've noticed that before in planning it, but the way I had it set up, it looked. It's odd. I was looking at the flight planner, and before I've set the flight up and it's gone that roundabout way, but when I did it this time it didn't. It had a much straighter path, so what happened there I do not know. So I'm more than a little confused at the moment. I'll have to try to figure out why it did that, because it seemed odd to me that for this flight it was giving me a much straighter path into Zurich, whereas before it had given me this roundabout route. So as it stands now it's working okay. Hey, it's just it's a flight of picking up experience and figuring out how all this works exactly. It would be nice to be down by now, but never mind. A little bit more to go on this journey. Let's see if we can get more clarity here. It's got a fair bit to go on that. So yeah, definitely an interesting flight. Airspeed is still 140. Just going to push the props full forward. Make sure I don't forget later. Electric fuel pumps will come on before landing. Instruments look good. Still, yeah, just a little bit under 140, so. Yeah, that riverbank looks a little bit blocky. And we'll shortly see how Zurich Airport looks. So a bit of a roundabout journey in the end, but we're getting there. We check out India Zulu Whiskey, ILS runway 28, that looks right. Has it automatically set the localizer frequency? I wasn't sure if, I thought maybe the G1000 did that, the 530 didn't. I'm guessing it set the localizer frequency automatically, which is nice. Just need to come around this corner and set up the landing. I've got to find a route actually where the approach is just straightforward. It doesn't have these dog leg turns. I think that's actually worked out pretty well in the end. I mean, yeah, it's taken me on a roundabout route, but when you look at what it did, it's yeah, you can see why it did what it did. You've just got to know your transition and your initial approach fix. Which is where little nav map comes in handy. I do think you need something like little nav map, or obviously the real world charts, if you want to get the most out of this. There's certain things you can do, certain tricks you can use, but nothing beats the actual charts, but you can kind of get by with something like little nav map, which is a fantastic little tool. Be awesome if we had more of that in the sim. I know there's always been talk about what they're going to include and when they're going to include it. I don't know the absolute fine details of that, but the more information on charts that we can get, that we can access within the sim, the better. I don't like having to jump between two different programs, going between the sim and an app. But that's certainly the way I'd recommend doing it. If you haven't used a little nav map and you're just doing it with the sim itself, what on earth is going on there? It's kind of like triangles. See if I can zoom in. Well, that's clearly not right. And we have some bugs there. There you go. A closer look at what's going on down here. Yeah, the building's a bit nondescript, a bit blocky. Well, you know, they'll do for our purposes. They're certainly a lot better than we've had in Sims before, straight out of the box. And obviously you could buy Olbec's scenery and get more detail. But speaking from a position of having bought Olbec's UK scenery, that can get quite expensive quite quickly. If you could get rid of those pyramids, that would be a really nice looking scene. So if we can just kind of avoid looking at those and just block that out a little bit. That looks really nice. That looks really nice. So yeah, the sim has issues. There are... see, it disappeared, so it's some sort of glitch rather than just the scenery. Some sort of scenery, I don't know, modelling or mesh issue. It's just some sort of drawing issue, which is better than the alternative. You wouldn't want to see that sort of thing actually baked into the mesh. Okay, we should be coming round. I have no idea the specifics of the ILS in this, because it's a while since I've done it's a while since I've done a it's 2.8 since I've done an ILS at all. So don't be surprised if I have to transition to doing a visual approach. We haven't had any disasters yet, so hopefully that good fortune is going to continue. So we'll need to change our CDI source, will change to localizer or VLOC, and we'll switch to approach mode. Fuel pumps will come on. We've got all the lights that we need. The autopilot switch should be on. FDAP, that should be on. Interesting. Okay, let's just check in again with the G530. Big right turn coming up. I can hit these without zooming out. Guess we'll look for 276 on the final course. Right, can we I'm not getting any options for reporting position. I'll just leave that radius for the time being.
Oscar Victor Alpha, please expedite your climb to 8,700 feet.
On second thoughts, I don't think we're going to be able to get that. That was a mistake. Okay, let's what is it, 24.6 miles? It's around runway 28, so under 25 miles. And hopefully we're not going to fly into any mountains. Oh, the sun is getting low. Not seen any road traffic down there. Oh yeah, we're just picking up a little bit of road traffic on the main roads. Okay, we're getting local. No, jumping ahead a little bit there. The cost of 276. A long way away from picking up that localizer. Unless I'm very much mistaken. Let's just hope we're okay for height. Yeah, we'll pick it up. Actually, we are picking up the localizer, I think. No, we're on GPS. I'm just getting myself confused here. Looking for the airport eventually. I'm looking for .275. Let's start getting to think about the actual approach and landing. Coming up 15 miles out. Forget the distance to the final approach fix. So I'm sure, did I look it up? I can't remember if I did now. Something I should have done anyway. You want to do this right, you have to do a lot of pre-planning. 15 miles out. Should be coming right down the throat of the runway, yeah. $50 miles out. Let's get rid of that. I'm not getting the ILS. Check that out. There it is. Off in the distance, just pick it out now. Start slowing it down, drop the landing gear. Speed down a little bit, down to 17 on manifold pressure. Sure the speed is below 140. I have a feeling this is going to be a visual approach. That's one hell of a scene. It should be a bit higher at this point, but we are where we are. Completely rusty with ILS, so this just doesn't look right at all. And that should be that's a bit strange. That's just, again, it's pulling off that. So track AR 276. I should do it for you, and it's not done it. We're not above. Messing about with that, I've just completely. Lost that. We're starting to descend there. A little bit of flap in. He did a 90 knots we were looking for, and 75 to 85, so 80 to 90 knots. Pulling that manifold pressure right down, looking for still about 95, which is quite a bit higher than I want to be. It's not the end of the world, but we just reset track IO so I'm actually can look above the engine cowling. So now I'd say we're assured of landing. Let's go full flaps. Seem a little bit offset to the right. I wish I could have gotten 80s, but don't know the frequency. 75 to 85 knots. We are, yeah, we're about that. Wind farms. It's great to see those wind farms actually, those turbines actually turning. They don't sound like much, but it's a nice detail. Same with the wind socks. It's nice to see these little details. Moving around a little bit. I'm guessing we've got a little bit of a crosswind from the left. What was it, 270 before, so it should be kind of just slightly on our front. Airspeed is about perfect. I think we've got it pretty much right on. Seem to be moving a little bit all over the place, to be honest. Just disconnect the autopilot. I do seem to be getting pushed around a little bit. Bounced around quite a bit. That descent rate has suddenly gone away. So we lost that descent rate. We're getting pushed all over the place. Too high now. But we are getting pushed around an awful lot. Bounced around. Really bouncy little approach this. It's not going in straight, so we're going to be landing long because of that. We lost that profile there. Turning off autopilot, it seemed pretty good, but suddenly just lost it completely. It was holding 500 feet per minute and then suddenly just lost it. Just as well we have plenty of runway. Just sit it down nice and gently. Which way are we going here? Let's go left anyway. Right, let's just go to the right. No idea where we're going, but let's go this way. Let's just stop here. And after landing, retract flaps. Flaps are up. Car flaps full open. If I can grab a hold of that, that'll be nice. Car flaps are full open. Electric pumps You know, I completely forgot to turn the, after saying all that, I forgot to turn the pumps. So now lights off. Completely forgot to turn the electric pumps, the electric fuel pumps on. Oh, let's release the parking brake. This always helps. And let's get moving. So find a spot to park in, shut down. Well, I don't think we need that. We didn't land that hard. I always feel I'm cheating a little bit when I land. I have no idea where I'm going. This is obviously not where we should be, but I'm going to go here anyway. Oh, let's see if there's somewhere over here we can park up. It's a little bit more fitting to our size. See, that was an interesting flight. A few things discovered. It was a bit of a learning flight for me, 'cause I wasn't sure about holding 105 knots on in the takeoff climb, but that worked out actually. So we see our first aircraft in the sky, and ironically it's after we've landed. So just have a look around Zurich. So this is stock, and it's pretty good. It's if you've never been to Zurich, I don't know if they'd even be all that welcoming of us landing in a small aircraft anywhere, but if you had never been in Zurich before, this is perfectly believable. Where the heck are we going? Now I'm just going to end up parking up against somewhere, anywhere. Let's just go down here, go on down to the left and just park up here. Not a bit fast, but we're in a hurry. Let's go up here and just park it up here. This is where you need to plan out your flights in minute detail. Let's just find an appropriate building to park up against and slow it down a little bit. See, this is what I don't like. It just rockets along and it never slows down. Let's park up here.
Zurich ground, Beechcraft Hotel Bravo. Yankee Bravo uniform, request taxi to parking.
Beechcraft Hotel Bravo. Yankee Bravo uniform taxi
That'll
to
do.
General Aviation
You'll know where to go.
via taxiway hotel.
Just ask for the directions. Get stop and engine heater and heater to fan form. It's actually, I don't think we have that. Anyway, heater to fan form, 2 minutes then off. There's no off position. Radio master electrical
General
off.
Aviation parking using taxiway hotel to
I'll take the record light and throttle to idle. Mixture throttle is idle. Mixture cut off, and that's it. How long will that take? An hour and 20 minutes. Continue. I like to continue, thanks. At least wait until the engines have stopped. I mean, come on. Magnetos. I've got them all off. Alternators and panel lights. And battery master off. So there it is. There's a complete flight from Innsbruck to Zurich. Hope you enjoyed that. It was an interesting flight for me. I learned a few things and about the aircraft and about actually getting an approach to work and the intricacies of that. So I hope you enjoyed that, and as always, feel free to like, comment and subscribe.